Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Shaw here, ready to go for the final unit before the end of course exam. And guys, I'm just so excited. You're going to love this. We're going to talk about modern politics and the influences on government. And we'll wrap it up. We're going to wrap up this, not the whole course. Obviously, we've got other stuff to talk about, but we are going to get you guys ready to go to knock that EOC out of the park. This video is going to be focusing on political parties and their impact as like members of the government, but as connections to the people. So let's get right to it. All right, political parties, here we go. So what is a political party? Well, the definition is really straightforward. It's an organization of individuals with common interests that try to win elections and influence the government. Okay, they are it's a group of people basically who believe that the government should be run in a certain way. And they run in elections and they work actively to try to attain power in government so that they can implement their beliefs. Again, each party defines common interests through platforms and planks. So, for example, if you the entire list of beliefs of the Republican and Democratic parties are that would be their platform. Okay, each individual part of that platform, each individual belief makes up a plank. Okay, so that's what it is. What else do they do? So the biggest roles that they play are going to be here. And again, remember, as I said in the beginning, that political parties are connections from the government to the people. They connect the government and the people. So the first thing that they do is they support and nominate candidates. Like I said before, they're trying to win power in government. And the way to do that is to make sure that they are running good candidates that have a good chance of winning. So they're going to hold a convention to nominate the party's presidential candidate, but they're also going to support everybody, even down to the local governors, or like the state governors, and even some like local mayoral elections as well. The political parties are going to have a big sway in any election in the country. They're also going to inform and activate voters. Basically, you can think about this has really gotten a lot easier with the internet, but it used to be that people would just start canvassing everywhere. They would go out and they would literally just walk door to door, and they would hand out flyers about their political party and information about it and why you should vote for them. So that's the biggest thing is they're going to keep people informed about what's going on, and they're also going to try to get voters to vote for their party because they believe that they're going to do the best job of running the government. They're also going to influence laws and policies. As I said earlier, if and when they win office, they are going to try to implement their party platform and their party planks. And so they are going to, try to create laws and get laws passed that are favorable to their party, that their party and their followers are going to agree with. That's what it says here. Legislators from one party meet to draft a law acceptable to everyone in the party. Again, it doesn't always have to be acceptable to everyone, but that makes it look better. The more laws that you can get passed, the better your political party looks, and the more likely you are to stay in power. They're also going to try to unite levels of government. Again, a party's state office is going to meet with state and local officials to discuss the party's goals. Again, there's a national level, there's a state level of the political party, and then local levels of the political party. And sometimes they're all going to meet to kind of start coordinating strategies and things like that. And then the last thing is they're going to create balance. Legislators from both parties meet to compromise after a failed vote on a budget bill. Again, and these are just particular examples, but again, the idea here is we need our government to function. The two-party system that we have in place doesn't necessarily allow for easy functioning. The parties don't really get along very well. They don't agree on very many things. But the compromise and balance is a big part of their role on a daily and yearly basis. Okay, so again, what is the two-party system and why do we have one? You heard me just mention that. Let's dive into it. So the definition of a two-party system is a system in which two parties dominate the competition for power. Wow, I'm so enlightened. again, two-party system, there's two parties. Okay, the United States has a two-party system. We have the Democrats and Republicans. They have been the two major parties since 1860. The United States has third and minor parties, but they are significantly less powerful, and that's because of the winner-take-all system that I should get into later, but again, because you guys have already heard of that. So why? Why do we have two parties? And so the Constitution never mentions political parties. George Washington himself actually said in his farewell address that you should not form political parties because it would create divisions among Americans. And that is pretty much exactly what happened. So again, the reason we have them is that we've kind of always had them. The force of tradition there is what that means. Again, we began with two parties, and by began, I mean after Washington left office, that was when we decided to create a two-party system. Washington was the only president that we've ever had that has been really, has unified, all Americans. And so since then, both parties, there's always been like a liberal party and there's always been a conservative party, and those two parties have really they've been really disagreed about the best way to operate the country. The electoral system is another reason why we have two-party systems. The winner-take-all elections, as I mentioned earlier, they discourage voters from quote-unquote wasting their vote. And also election law discourages third-party candidates. So, for example, in the winner-take-all system, if you're a third-party candidate, it's almost impossible for you to win any electoral votes. Like, you have to win the popular vote in a state in order to get any of that state's electoral votes. And so it makes it really difficult for third parties to win anything, especially in presidential elections, but also even in just like congressional elections too. And that it's unfortunate because third parties do have a lot to bring to the table, but we'll get into that a little bit later, but it's just really impossible for them to win. And then there are also, the other reason we have a two-party system is because we have broad platforms for each party. Again, American ideals that we have are really broad, and they really fit neatly into both party platforms. Like you think about, the idea of individualism within the Republican platform, and like that, it means that they don't believe that they necessarily need to. It's not the government's job to provide things for the people, and they want the government to be smaller, but also, we want to help people, and that fits well into the Democratic platform of providing social services and things like that. So it's interesting that both sides say that they have American ideals, and they're both right. That they've kind of picked and chosen what which American ideals they really favor the most. And in the broad platforms mean that there's really not much of a need for radical third or fourth parties, because our parties that we have are very, very broad in general. Okay, so I mentioned third parties in the last one. How do they actually impact politics? So they play two roles. The first role is the spoiler, okay? And this is when third-party candidates can pull support from other candidates in major elections, and that is basically going to spoil one party's chances of winning an election. So let's say, for example, in 2024, the Republicans decided to not choose Donald Trump as their presidential candidate. That would probably let's say that Trump decides to run as his own third party, that would pull votes away from the Republican Party and make it harder for them to actually win the election. And that would be bad for the Republicans. So they probably wouldn't do that. They would probably just pick, Donald Trump to be their presidential candidate again. And again, this is our system emphasizes plurality over majority. You don't actually need to win a majority in order to you don't have to convince a majority of Americans to vote for you. You really just need a plurality, which is you need to convince more people to vote for you than the other person, if that makes any sense. And then the last role they play is the innovator. So they can afford to be really aggressive in stance and are willing to propose new ideas. So like you'll think of parties like the Green Party, for example. They propose all kinds of like environmental regulations that need to be that have now been like adopted by the Democrats, okay? Because like they were, kind of creating all of these new things, and like it turns out a lot of Americans cared about, environmentalism. And so the Democrats kind of stole that from them, unfortunately, for the Green Party. But, kind of, I guess, better for the Democrats because now they are going to get votes from people who believe in environmentalism. And that's what I kind of got away from myself there. I apologize. Ideas are often adopted by major parties once the general public begins to agree. Okay, and that's exactly what happened with environmentalism and the Green Party again. And that happens a lot more usually with the Democratic Party rather than the Republican Party. Although it did happen like a lot during President Trump's presidency. And that a lot of his ideas kind of got adopted by the Republican Party, but like usually the Democrats are kind of more of a they're not as stable because that fits better with liberalism. They're going to be kind of shifting and trying to create more change and trying to create more equality whenever they can. All right, so who is in charge of each party? I know that we learned about the president as like the party leader, and technically that's true, but really each party is so vast and it covers just so much ground that each party is really decentralized, and it means that there's like a loose chain of command, like from top to bottom, but each individual area is going to kind of be its own, it have authority over itself. Like, so for example, like Joe Biden is, the party leader for the Democrats right now, but like he doesn't control like the Democrats in Missouri or the Democrats even in like St. Louis. So that is like he could influence them definitely, but like as far as like being in charge of them, it doesn't really happen. The part of the reason why parties are not more clearly organized, it has to do with federalism. Again, we at the very beginning of this country, we decided to make split government power between the national and state governments, and so the quote unquote like turf war between federal and state jurisdiction, like it kind of split in the sense of a political party. We have federal parts of the political party, and we have state parts of the political party and local parts of the political party. So it just never really allowed for more cohesion, for lack of a better word. Also, the nomination process is really like complicated, and basically identifying candidates to nominate for higher office can cause conflict within a party because there are so many different people and so many people who are like, kind of scrambling to get these positions that it's difficult to, really pick the best and the brightest to kind of move forward, for any individual party. All right, so how do parties organize on a national level? So we're just going to focus on the national level for now, and I'll get into kind of what they look like state and locally in a little bit. So first of all, each party has national committees. So we have the Republican and Democratic national committees. They are going to work to strengthen and promote the party. They're going to raise money and communicate with voters. Again, like I said, that becomes a lot easier with the internet. But in general, like that's what they want to do. They're going to raise money for really any Republican or Democratic need for it. They also are going to help organize the National Convention every 4 years. At the National Convention every 4 years, a nominee is chosen for president and vice president during an election year. And then they're also going to write a new party platform and then kind of rules for that party as well. So every 4 years, the party platforms kind of change a little bit, but for the most part, they stay pretty consistent. Or at least like there's not really many surprises on any new party platform, or if there are, they're very, there's like maybe one or two new ones every year. And then also the congressional campaign committees, there's going to be one for each House of Congress. and they work to make sure the party keeps seats in Congress. So this is not really like a formal part of Congress. It's really more about, hey, these are the parties that are in Congress, and or like there's going to be like a Republican Congressional Campaign Committee that is made up of members in Congress, and then same thing for the Democrats, and they're going to try to make sure that they are achieving majorities in the House and the Senate, and then obviously the presidency as much as possible. Okay, so state and local parties are organized with a state central committee. There's going to be a state chairperson. Members are going to represent the state geographically, and they are going to be chosen during primaries or caucuses, and they are going to promote, unite, and activate the party within the state. I'm not super worried about you guys knowing that, or really even the local organization as well. I would just kind of know a general idea, okay, like the state, at the state level, they're going to be, the party has a specific state entity that is going to be organizing the political party and trying to get candidates and trying to help those candidates win. Same thing for local organization. They're going to follow the electoral map of congressional districts, and they're going to be broken into congressional districts, wards, and precincts. Again, that's more information than I really care for you to know, but just in general, make sure you know that the local organization is really doing the same thing, and they're trying to, help their party to win at the local level. Again, so here this is the kind of how they are organized on a local and state party organization. Again, you see the third level is the precinct. Precincts are so let's start at the first level. So first level are congressional and state legislative districts. Again, they're going to make up entire geographic boundaries. And then wards are going to be the next. They're like usually like into like think of like counties for us. And then precincts are going to be the smallest one of the party organization. And so like basically there's just each party is going to have certain, precincts and wards, and then congressional and state legislative districts that they are going to be in control of and trying to, to win majorities in. Like, so that's really at the first level. And then each party is going to have entities at the ward and precinct level who are going to help help out at the congressional level as well. Oh, sorry, we had some helpful little bubbles there. That's nice. Okay, again, here you can see the breakdowns in Missouri. So we are in District 3 right now. And then like right on the border with District 2. And then, of course, there's going to be more, like in District 3, there's going to be wards and precincts that are in those areas also. Okay, so main takeaways. Political parties compete to influence government and public policy. Again, remember, once they attain power in government, they are going to work to pass laws that are going to be favorable to their party and to the beliefs of the party followers. The two major parties in America play 5 important roles in politics. Again, the biggest one being informing voters and trying to activate voters. Thirdly, although we have a two-party system, minor parties can play important roles of spoiler and innovator. And then lastly, political parties have a decentralized structure of organization primarily split between federal and state functions. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you. I will see you in the next video. Take it easy.